Well, let's get some reaction now from the other side of the political stable. I'm joined by the human rights lawyer Shoaib Khan. Mr. Khan, always a pleasure to have your company. I'm assuming you don't like this policy whatsoever.
Yes, I mean, you're correct. Yeah, I mean, I think it's an appalling policy. The only silver lining, obviously, being like Rachel Reeves was saying, and, I hesitate to agree with Rachel Reeves, but, that's unworkable. So I think that's the silver lining we have. It's never going to be implemented. But otherwise, I think it's an awful idea. I mean, obviously, in terms of what they're saying, generally it doesn't make sense anyway. Any questions put to him, you could just tell he has no idea. Even Nigel Farage has no idea of any of the detail beyond what he had drafted that he would say. Any questions put to him would, he just had no answer to. But even this, I mean, I think it's just misleading people by saying, fine, we'll get rid of ILR, indefinite leave to remain. But that's sort of a stepping stone to citizenship. So basically, what he's not saying we won't give people citizenship. He's saying we'll get rid of this, intermediate stage, and people can go and directly apply for citizenship directly.
Yeah,
I'm not sure if people really understand that. That is what he's saying, basically.
No, but that would sound like a reasonable thing. For example, I lived in Australia when I was a young lad, and I understood the rules of engagement on a work visa. I had to support myself. If I couldn't, I had to go home. I couldn't claim benefits, and I certainly couldn't take dependents. That was the way of the world. Those were the terms of engagement. It's not unusual for a country to state that. America does it. A great many other countries do it. Why is it suddenly, as you were quoted earlier on, calling it frighteningly racist or worryingly ignorance to do this?
I think I'm not racist. I think I used the word fascist, really. But I think the main reason was the second proposal, which is even more scary, and I think that is fascist, that we will take it away from people. So, for instance, the point you just made, if you were in Australia and the law at the time was you can get PR and you uprooted your life from Britain, you took your family there, you invested in Australia, you were there for years. And then some far-right government comes in and says, we're getting rid of that, all the foreigners need to leave. We don't care what status you have. I think that is fascist. That's wrong. You can't apply... Hang on.
You can't just throw words around like fascist. Controlling borders isn't fascism. Fascism is a completely... And so you've got to be very careful bandying words about like that, because they simply cease to have any meaning. It simply ceases to have any meaning. Far-right, fascist, racist, Islamophobic, xenophobic. It pings off the armour. Engage with the truth. We can't afford the benefits bill, and we should be putting British workers first. In actual fact, the vast majority of the electorate disagree with you.
I am very careful about the words I use, and I do use it advisedly and, reservedly, this word. I think that... a law, if it comes in, that says people who have earned the right to ILR, whether under Tony Blair, whether under Boris Johnson, whatever the laws, whether you agree with it or not, and they have that right legally, and then another government comes in and reverses that and says you have to now uproot your lives and you have to leave the UK, or now you're going back to a temporary visa. I think that is authoritarian. I think that is fascist. I just don't understand how legally that can make any sense.
Hang on a minute, mate. Hang on a minute. If this were, presumably this would be in Nigel Farage's manifesto pledge, people can or can't vote for it. If people voted for it and it became the democratic rule of the land and Nigel Farage were to impose it, that's the opposite of fascism. It's democracy. It's a policy that people vote for. What are you talking about?
I think we're going to semantics now, but I don't agree. That's
no, we're
the
not. You're calling people fascists who you disagree with. And I'm asking you to defend that term. It's idiotic.
I don't want to give you examples of, and we're talking, less than 100 years from the First World War and the regimes all over the world. Many of them came in through a democratic vote. So are we saying they weren't fascist or they weren't authoritarian or they weren't repressive? I just don't understand this. Of course, if someone's coming in and being cruel or nasty or awful, then we have to call that out, even if they came in, even if they were voted in. So just because you vote for someone or majority votes for someone doesn't mean they can't be wrong. I just don't understand this argument, really. So the point I was making is...
Keep making the argument, because every time you say it, you're giving, I think, Nigel Farage, Reform UK, thousands of extra votes. This is something that they're tabling as an idea. You obviously don't like it, but to say it's the actions of a fascist, I think is utterly absurd. And I think many people...
Even if someone earned that right legally under the UK government, whoever was in place...
because policy can change. That's sovereignty. Sovereign law of Parliament means policy can be changed. A future government can change policy. Them's the rubs. In actual fact, it's the opposite of fascism. It's a democratically elected mandate. Don't you get it?
So if a democratically elected government starts revoking British people's passports, you'll be fine with that? If they suggest that these certain people, British people, we can take away their passports, you're fine with that?
Well, if they're granted indefinite leave to remain in huge numbers and the criteria which a present government believes were too low because they weren't skilled workers, the salary threshold was too high, too many people allowed as dependents, then a future government is perfectly entitled to change policy, and you can vote for it or you can not vote for it, and that, my friend, is the opposite of fascism. If you don't get that, then we can argue till Easter, till next Easter, till Christmas, and we'll never, ever agree.
If the Boriswave had all been given British passports, you would be happy for Nigel Farage to come in and take away all people's British passports.
It's Nigel Farage's policy. It's not my policy. I'm saying that if a government decides to change tack, it's perfectly entitled to do that. You're saying that no government can change any policy without you being calling it fascist. We've got to leave it there. I'm being told we have to move on. We could literally talk till Christmas. Until next time, it's been beautiful. Shoaib Khan, thank you very, very much indeed.